All right, welcome to podcast episode 243, live here from Santa Monica in California. And instead of having the usual intro tune of the podcast, I'm actually going to have Huzefa sing Get Paid for Your Pet live. Yo, Huzefa! I'm actually staying at Huzefa's place here in Santa Monica, which is really, really fun. There he is.
What's up, guys? All right.
Let's do it. Let's take it away.
All right, ready? Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet. Getting paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet.
Woohoo! What a legend. Awesome, Huzefa. Thanks so much. How's it going, man?
It's really good, and it's good to have you here. It's awesome.
For sure, man. 4 years ago, me and Huzefa published Get Paid for Your Pet, and we started the podcast when we were in Las Vegas, actually, which was super fun. We had such a good time with it. Huzefa then moved on and kind of started doing his own thing, which is really awesome. As you can tell, he's a really good singer, and so he actually does his really cool math songs on his. You're doing it on YouTube mostly, right?
That's right. Yeah. So my company is called Scalar Learning, and it's all about math education, math tutoring, and most importantly, math digital content and video courses. But a offshoot of that is math music videos, which is like my favorite thing to do. So I just released my 16th song last week on sequences, but it's all sorts of math video content, but the music is the really, really fun part, and I get to record and collaborate, and it's been a blast.
And we were actually at VidCon in the last week, which was super fun. VidCon is, I guess it's probably the biggest YouTube conference or the only YouTube conference in the world.
Yeah, there's different educational content related conferences like at South by Southwest, but VidCon is really, and I felt like it expanded beyond a little bit. Like there were sessions on Twitch, there were sessions on Instagram, on Facebook Live, but really it's meant to be a central hub for YouTube creators and aspiring YouTube creators, and also the YouTube community members and fans.
It was awesome. It was 4 days. We learned a lot. And what I thought was really cool, like we got some feedback on our personal YouTube channels. This is something that we're both focusing on. So me for Airbnb, for Get Paid for Your Pet, and Huzefa for his math tutoring business. And we got some personal feedback from vidIQ, which is a company that provides all sorts of analytics and insights for people who own YouTube channels. So that was really cool. But what was really cool as well, Huzefa asked a question at the sort of like, it was like an Ask Me Anything type of event by a bunch of famous YouTubers. And so he introduced himself, and well, I'll let you tell the story because it was really cool.
That was great. I mean, I was on cloud nine because it was just fun. And what these guys were, it's essentially a panel of YouTube creator experts where they were giving everybody advice on how to grow their channels, different strategic opinions. And our YouTube channels are both relatively young. Mine has about, we're both around 2,000 subscribers. The Scalar Learning channel is around 2,000, and so I'm in a state of constant trying to re-engineer and improve and grow, and I feel like I'm on the right track. But anyway, so I asked a question, and before I did, they said, well, introduce yourself and tell us what your channel is about. So I said, my name is Huzefa. I have a channel that's all about math education and standardized test prep, and I also make math music videos. So anyways, my question is, and then right as I was about to ask the question, they cut me off, and they go, whoa, wait a minute, math music videos, that's really cool. And they gave me a round of applause just for that, and then they started to ask me about them, and then I was like, well, let me give you a little sample. And then I sang the chorus from my most popular song, which is the quadratic formula. So I got to sing on stage in front of 400, 500 people.
That was a lot of people there.
And I was like, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4. So I sang a little bit of that, and that was super fun. And then I got to answer my question, or ask my question.
Yeah, it was super cool. So today's podcast, I have a lot of updates. I wrote them down because I wouldn't remember everything. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the Get Paid for Your Pad 2, the book, the follow-up book that we're currently writing. Most of the content is actually done. Just like with the first book, Josefa is gonna, is gonna be the co-author. He's an expert at editing and just coming up with like additional like creative content and stuff. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna talk about my apartment in Cali. I actually had my first guests this weekend, so that's super exciting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the other two investments that I've made in Thailand and Boracay. I did a trip to Egypt to check out potential Airbnb opportunities, investment opportunities there. I got tipped off by a local Airbnb host here in Los Angeles. I see she's actually watching. The shout out Sofia Bak. She has amazing Airbnbs near Los Angeles Airport. So if you ever need to be near LAX, check out her Airbnb profiles. I'll put a link to her listings in the show notes, which you can find at getpaidforyourpad.com. I'm going to talk about Innhance, which is a short-term rental management company that I've actually started with some really good friends of mine, which I'll talk about more later in this episode. I'm going to talk about a local Airbnb meetup that I'm holding at here in Santa Monica, actually, on Friday. So Friday, June 29th. We'll start at 4 o'clock. There's going to be $1 oysters, so that's good. There's going to be cheap drinks. It's happy hour 4 to 7, but then afterwards we'll probably continue somewhere else. So if you're in the area, hit me up. Or look at the Get Paid for Your Pad Facebook page because I've created an event. It's public. Anybody can register. So if you're interested in Airbnb, if you're an Airbnb host or you have questions, like just come hang out, or if you just have no plans and you happen to be in the area, just come say hi and have a couple oysters, have a couple drinks. And then if there's any questions, I might do a little AMA. I see there's a bunch of people watching and I can see the comments. Like, if you guys type comments, you have questions, like I can actually read them. So yeah, that's on the agenda for today. But now that I still have Josefa here, like he's a busy man these days, so like I can't take too much of his time. So let's start with the book update. So I've been working on a new book for a while, which is really about how do you find good properties to invest in and rent out on Airbnb. So the last year, like as a lot of you probably know, I sold my house in Amsterdam, which I had been renting out since 2012. I sold it about a year ago because Amsterdam didn't allow short-term rentals anymore. And so I sold it, and now I had to reinvest all this money, right? So the last year I've been traveling around the world trying to find profitable locations to buy a property and rent out on Airbnb, which actually has been quite a challenge because, if you ask any real estate professional, what's the most important thing before you buy a property somewhere, they'll always tell you, know the market. Well, I bought now 3 properties in Colombia and Thailand and Philippines. And I mean, how am I going to know that market, right? You have to be there for at least like 3 to 6 months, I'd say, to really understand the market. And that wasn't really an option for me because I just, I really wanted to reinvest this money. I didn't want to wait a couple of years and live in different places and just wait like 3 to 6 months before I understand the market and everything. So I've kind of selected my locations in terms of more like macroeconomical factors. So, do I expect a lot of tourism in the area in the future? A couple places are near airports that are being upgraded. So these more like general macroeconomical considerations is what I've kind of used. I've also looked at what's the situation with Airbnb regulations. Am I going to be allowed to do short-term rental? Is that likely to change in the future? So these are all things that I've looked at, and I've kind of like kept a journal and wrote down like all my experiences, like the different locations where I decided not to invest because I thought it wasn't a good location. And also, how am I going to manage this, right? Because if you have like several properties around the world, the management obviously is a challenge as well. So all these experiences I've kind of I've written down. The content is pretty much done. But then the second part is actually an update to the original Get Paid for Your Pad. And the reason I'm going to do it this way is because on Amazon there's really not a good reason to to update a book, because Airbnb is dynamic, right? So things change, and right now our book actually has some information that's no longer valid, and so we really want to update that. But there's no way that we can do that on Amazon and have everybody who's already purchased the book download it for free. Basically, people would need to buy another version of the book, which I feel like people shouldn't have to spend another like $10 or $15 if there's only going to be like a couple updates. And so that's the reason that we decided to actually congregate the old book and the new book in one book, so that people can buy the new book and they're not just buying the updates on how to optimize your listing and how to make more money on Airbnb, but they're actually getting what was supposed to be a whole new book on how do you find profitable Airbnb investments around the world. So I feel like that's a much better value offering to those who want to get the new book. And so yeah, we're super excited. This is going to be this our second book, so it'll be a little bit easier for us to launch it. The first time we had no idea what we were doing, but yeah, man, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
Very excited. I think we really started to hash out the plan a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, at the end of the day, you probably get more questions than anything, especially lately, I feel like, about how do you strategically, if you're looking for places to invest, especially beyond the US, beyond places where you normally reside, like, is that feasible and how to do it? So I think now you've gone on that journey, you've gotten some places, you've already started renting out and seeing those profits come in. So it's super valuable because it is daunting. And I think one of the most important things that you've done on this journey is you very carefully selected places where you had some connection. You had somebody, like for example, in Colombia, you have somebody, a management organization that you can trust, that you can put all this stuff into their hands, and you can be rest assured that the different aspects of management are going to be taken care of. So I think that from that aspect on how to forge those relationships and build something out that you can be somewhat carefree about is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally true. And I've been traveling around the world for 8 years, so I do know a lot of locations. But still, I feel like in order to get those the best deals possible, and by the way, we're also going to include 10 case studies of other people who've invested in profitable Airbnb properties around the world. And that's probably like one of the most valuable parts, actually, because I just started this journey, kind of, right? And so I don't feel like I'm like the biggest expert on how do you find these properties, and that's why I really wanted to bring in a lot of other people who've already done this. And one thing I've noticed is the people that really have found like the best deals are usually the people that live in a location and they buy something nearby, so they completely understand the market. They have the opportunity to just kind of wait it out, and when an opportunity pops up, boom, they just jump on it, right? By the way, there's a lot of people watching. We've got over like 25 people watching, so I'm just like looking at the comments. Somebody's asking, Victor Ortiz, he's asking, what about investment in Puerto Rico? Right, that's another thing. So I was in Puerto Rico about a month ago, and I think for American citizens, Puerto Rico has a lot of opportunity because you guys can get leverage. Now, I can't because I'm not a US citizen. And so for me, it's impossible to get a mortgage in the US and actually invest in Puerto Rico. I wouldn't say impossible, but it's a lot more complicated for me than for American citizens. So basically what happens is, when I enter a market like Puerto Rico, I'm competing with people who can borrow, at like 3, 4, 5% interest. They can borrow money and do like 70, 80% leverage and buy properties there, where I have to pay cash. And so in order for me to get the sort of the 10% return that I'm looking to make, I think that's really difficult in a market where it's such easy access for American people. Also, there's all these tax advantages and stuff. And so for somebody who, for example, wants to move to Puerto Rico, for an American citizen, and get a mortgage and buy a couple properties and pay a lot less taxes, that person is going to be in such a more favorable position than me. And so, for me, it's probably better to invest in markets that people are kind of worried about investing, like Colombia, Philippines, Thailand. I mean, these are countries where, very first of all, it's almost impossible to get a mortgage there. Um, and secondly, I think that a lot of people are kind of hesitant to invest in these countries because it's kind of like unknown. It's these countries, people aren't just very familiar with them, and so I feel like in those countries I have more of an edge because I actually do know these countries pretty well. So yeah, that's kind of the reason why I've invested in these countries and not in Puerto Rico. Let's see what else we have. Information on how to acquire Airbnb efficient properties will really expand your book audience considerably. Looking forward to its release. Thanks, Garrick, for reaching out. We're definitely super excited about this. All right, let me see. Let's see what's on the agenda because there's so much to talk about today. One more question. The hostel scene is big these days. What's your take on hostels? You know what? I would actually be interested in working with a hostel and seeing like how that process works of renting out on Airbnb platforms like Airbnb as a hostel. I haven't stayed in very many hostels in my life myself, so I just don't really understand that market very well. But I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm actually in the process of partnering with the kitesurfing school in Egypt, where I did some kite surfing. I'll talk about this more when I touch on the topic of Egypt, actually. But I'm about to partner up with a kite surfing school and help them rent out rooms at the school. So I'm going to be managing it on Airbnb. So I think I'll that way I'll get some more experience in what is it like to rent out like five similar rooms in somewhat like a hostel. I guess it's not a hostel; it has private rooms, but still it's it's somewhat similar. But I'll get back on that a little bit later. Let's see. The next topic for today. Let's talk about my penthouse in Cali. Okay. So I don't know if you want to stay here. You're welcome to stay. I know you're a busy man, so you've got a lot of stuff to do, especially after this YouTube conference that we went to. We have so much motivation. We learned so many things. So we're just like super pumped to jump on all the advice that we've been giving and grow, make better videos, provide better value to you guys, and Josefa to his audience. So
yeah, there's a lot. So, and that's literally what I'm going back to do. But it was so awesome to talk to everybody again. And like Jasper said, we got a new book coming out that we're both super stoked about, and more information will be coming out in the next few weeks and few months. But it's gonna be great. All right,
dude.
Peace.
Alrighty, so Cali, man, it's been so fun. I spent about a month in my own place in Cali. And if you want to check it out, by the way, there's two places where you can go. On my Instagram, Get Paid for Your Pet Instagram, and also on my personal Instagram account, Jasper.Ribbers, you can find all the pictures of what the place looks like. And it's super cool. If you go on getpaidforyourpet.com, there's also a blog post that I wrote about a year and a half ago, actually, when I purchased the property. So you can also check out the blog post and kind of see like why I chose this location and the other, sort of the other rationale behind this purchase. And then you can go on Instagram or you can go on my Facebook as well. You can see the pictures so you can see what it looks like. I had an absolute blast. Cali it's such a fun city. And I just really feel like it's a hidden gem. Very few people know about this place. People know Medellin, people know Bogota. I've never been to Bogota. I've heard, that most people I've talked to are not a huge fan of the city. Medellin is very well known. I actually do like Medellin, but I like Cali better. And I actually had some friends from Medellin who came over to Cali when I was staying there, and they actually told me after spending a few days in Cali, they were actually thinking about like, maybe I should move to Cali because this place is fun. It's a little bit off the beaten track. There's not a lot of foreigners there. There's not a lot of foreign investment, and that's one of the reasons why I actually decided to to purchase in Cali as well. But the apartment came out amazing. I just completely love it. It's located in the best neighborhood in Cali. It's a super fun neighborhood. It's very safe. It's up and coming. There's lots of bars and restaurants popping up. And I remember the first time I came there. I only spent 3 days there, and then I decided to purchase this unit. And I could just feel the almost like a volcano that's about to burst. You can just feel that there's something happening in this particular neighborhood. Somebody's asking how much cash flow you're expecting from each of your properties annually. So my aim is really to make 10% after costs. So net 10%, which is a pretty ambitious target, because where these days where can you get that type of return, right? I mean, like you put money in the bank, like you get nothing. Bonds. I mean, the stock market is at an all-time high. Dividend yields are I think almost at an all-time low. So it's pretty hard to find a good return on your money these days. Now, I don't know if I'm going to make this 10%, right? But that's kind of what I have in mind when I purchase my properties. If it's going to be a little bit lower, if it's going to be like 6, 7, 8%, it's not a disaster. But one of the reasons, or one of the things I looked at as well when I bought my properties was, I really asked myself, would I like to spend time here myself? Because you got to think about the worst case scenario. I mean, to be fairly honest, I know the markets where I bought, because I've been there as a traveler, but I mean, I don't know the rental market very well. I mean, so I don't know. I might be wrong. I might not be make as much as I think I was going to make. But then, I'm pretty sure that the locations where I bought will be pretty popular in terms of long-term renting. So that could be like a second option if the short-term rental thing doesn't work. But most importantly, I mean, if my apartment in Cali, if that doesn't do well, like, man, I'll spend time there myself. I'll live there myself, because I mean, I love it there. But I gotta think that, if I love it there, like I'm sure there must be other people who like it as well, right? So that's also why I'm pretty confident. I mean, I've traveled to like about 80 countries or so in the last 8 years. And so these are, the places where I bought are really some of my favorite locations around the world. And so, worst case scenario, I'll stay there myself, but I just can't imagine that other people won't be, wanting to stay there. So I hope that answers your question. We got another question here. Let's see. Can't wait to hear about your new PMS. I've been looking for a guesty replacement. They're way too expensive. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let me jump into to this topic actually. So, all right. So the management thing is probably the biggest issue that that Airbnb hosts have. The most of the questions I get from people is, what system do you use to especially when you have multiple properties, like how do you host remotely? And my solution for this in my apartment in Amsterdam has always been like I had an amazing cleaning lady who I promoted to manager basically, and she was awesome. I already knew her for about 5 years before I started hosting Airbnb, and she was just incredible. She was just she looked after my house so well. I never had to worry about anything. I mean, it was always super clean. The guests were always happy. She was super welcoming. And so I've never really had this issue. And so when people ask me, like, how do you find a good management company? How do you find a person that can manage my unit, that I can trust, that's going to do a good job, that understands hospitality? And I just started realizing this is a massive, massive challenge. Now, I know there's options out there, right? And the people I've interviewed on the podcast for the last, almost 4 years, I've heard a lot of different solutions. There's local short-term management companies, and some of them I'm sure are pretty good, but also some of them are not that good. And so the experiences are really mixed. Now, I think when you manage a unit, you really need to have people on the ground, right? And so it's pretty difficult to find like a solution that covers like a large area. That has like a good reputation that you can trust and stuff, because it's just a very local thing, right? Managing Airbnb. So if you're in a location and the local players just aren't doing a very good job, then your alternative is to use something like Guesty, which I've used in the past, and I stopped using it because I didn't have great experience, and I hear from a lot of people that their experience isn't that great either. It's like very expensive, and so I felt like, okay, there's not really a good solution that I can offer. I don't know how to answer this question basically, other than saying, hey, find a person that you can trust and have that person manage your place. But then how do you go about doing that? Now, I've actually learned a lot from other hosts that I've interviewed on how to do this. And so I was talking to some of my friends who have been doing really well on Airbnb in places like Miami, Airbnb, of Los Angeles, and I've talked to them, and we came up with this idea. What if we help people to find a management solution anywhere in the U.S., right? And if we don't know people there, like, we'll go there and we'll find people to manage it for other people so that they don't have to worry about it. And I actually feel pretty confident that we can do this because with our combined experience and our combined networks, like, my friends are actually already hosting in a lot of cities across the US. They have a lot of connections, and I have so many connections with Airbnb hosts all around the US. I mean, I get emails on a daily basis from people in San Francisco, people in Los Angeles, people in Denver, in Austin, in Boston, like all these places. And so, I feel like together we could probably find somebody. We could find an Airbnb host who might be willing to co-host, for example. And in worst case scenario, one of us will just fly down and find people on the ground. We'll do whatever it takes. But our goal with this company, and it's called Innhance, by the way. You can check out the website on innhance.com. I'll be interviewing my co-founders pretty soon, by the way, so you have a chance to get to know them as well. Go to innhance.com. So it's INNHANCE.com. That's our website. If you do have a property that you want us to manage, feel free to reach out, send me an email. And the main goal for us is really it's customer experience. Whatever happens, we're going to make sure that you're getting good results and you're going to be happy with the situation. So super excited about this. Let's see. I have a few more questions coming up. All right. Well, you know what? Let me go through. Let me go through some of the more the other topics because I have so much to discuss. Peter here is saying he's got 16 Airbnbs and he finds it really difficult to find a good solution. John saying the same thing. It's just difficult. It's complicated, and that's exactly why I took on this challenge to do this. And I know it's really ambitious, managing properties all around the country. But you know what? I'm going to give my 100%. I know my friends will. So I'm pretty confident. All right. Let's see. Egypt. All right. So I got a tip actually from Sofia, who I mentioned earlier, who has some amazing Airbnbs here in Los Angeles, and she told me about Egypt. She said to me, you can buy properties, you can buy apartments starting at around $5,000 to $10,000, which I thought was amazing. I mean, where in the world can you buy an apartment for $10,000? I mean, that's just crazy, right? And I know that this particular location was in Hurghada, which is a very popular tourist destination, especially for Europeans, for people from Russia. And so I knew, there's a lot of demand there for accommodation for sure. And besides that, it's also one of the best places to go kite surfing. And I love kite surfing. It's such a fun sport. I really gotten into it over the last couple of years. So I thought, hey, I can go kite surfing, apartments for $10,000, on the beach in a popular tourist destination. I'm down. So I pretty much booked my flight within a week or so, and so I went to Hurghada in Egypt. I stayed there for a week. My 19-year-old cousin joined me. Actually, he's a big kite surfing fan as well, and it was really cool to travel with a younger family member for the first time ever, actually. So it was super fun. And Sophia was right. There were apartments for sale for around like $10,000, including furniture, and if you include all the costs of signing the deal, the lawyers, everything, it's you're looking at about $15,000 or so for like a studio unit. And there's a lot of supply there. They're really building a lot of big resorts, and they're selling those apartments, pre completion. Like some of them are completely pre construction, but some of them are almost finished. There's also units on the market, of course, that are already finished, but the really cheap ones are the ones that aren't finished yet. And so, at first sight, I mean, this sounds like super attractive. Um, but I didn't end up buying anything because there's a few issues. Well, first of all, I mean, you look at the rental prices. You look at how much can you actually charge for these units, because it's super cool to buy something for $15,000. But if you want to make a 10% return, that means you got to make $1,500, which is just over $100, $120 a month, which sounds like not a lot. But if you realize that you can rent apartments there for for $100, and if you want to rent it out short term, you're really looking at like $10, $15 a night, which means that you actually need a pretty decent occupancy to make decent money if you include cleaning costs and management costs and everything. Now imagine that, like, if you're spending $100 a month on bills and management costs and stuff, and you need to make about like $120, $150, now you're looking at 220, 250. But if you're only getting 10, $15 a night, then that's actually kind of challenging, especially if you think about the amount of supply. I mean, it really looks like they're just building these massive ghost towns. Like there's so many like unfinished construction, and and so I actually really doubt that you'll be able to get up to like 50, 60% or 70% occupancy in this particular area, because you're competing with massive 5-star, 4-star all inclusive resorts that are super super cheap. I actually stayed in an all inclusive resort. I mean, I paid like 500, was it 600 bucks for a return ticket from Amsterdam, and including the stay in a resort with like swimming pools, including all food and beverages, except for non-local beverages, but local beer and wine, etc. was all free. Now, so you're competing with these massive resorts, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, right? So, and then the other thing was I just didn't really like it there. I mean, it's a desert. There's nothing there really. I mean, the people that go there, they really go there to lie on the beach, take in the sun, and not spend a lot of money. If you're in Europe or you're in Russia and you don't want to spend a lot of money, and you just want to have sun, you want to have a warm climate, you want to drink a lot of beer and not pay any money, then Hurghada is the perfect destination. But there's nothing really else to do there, and so I mean, except for the kite surfing. I mean, the kite surfing was actually amazing. It's funny because Sophia is like commenting like she hated it. I mean, she basically texted me. She went down there after 3 days. She texted me, "I'm out of here. Like this place sucks." So I mean, my experience was better because I just spent most of my time kite surfing, and I was hanging out with my cousin. So I was that was a great experience. So I had a good time, but it's not a location that I would want to spend a lot of time. I can see myself maybe going there like a week or 2 weeks a year just for the kite surfing, but it's definitely not something that I could be very excited about other than the kite surfing. And again, as I mentioned, when I buy a property, I really want to feel like I would love to stay there myself, because that's kind of the worst case scenario. If I'm not making a lot of money, then at least I get to stay there myself, right? So that's kind of why I didn't purchase anything in Egypt. I see there's a lot of people commenting who, oh yeah, people are mentioning, the political situation and that's something that I guess I haven't talked about, but there's a reason why these apartments are so cheap. First of all, the Egyptian pound has completely collapsed. It is, I mean, look, just Google Egyptian pound versus US dollar, and then look at the graph over the last couple of years, and you'll see that it's completely collapsed. And that's why a lot of these apartments are so cheap, because they probably have contracts in terms of the local currency. They probably already bought all, the materials might be cheap, the labor is probably very cheap. But obviously, like, there's a reason why the currency collapsed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in Egypt. Political situations unstable. There's been like some terrorist attacks, and so there's it's a high risk area to invest, because if something happens, the tourism will just collapse. I mean, that's what happened about 7-8 years ago or so. Tourism really collapsed. It's kind of recovered. It's almost back where it was. But obviously, like, something could happen and it could collapse again. So, given the risk profile, given the fact that I didn't really enjoy the area so much, and the fact that it actually doesn't even look that great in terms of return on investment. I mean, the upside really is that this area is going to develop, that more and more tourists are going to come. And that's kind of the plan of the government. I mean, the airport is already like capable of receiving an insane number of tourists. I can't remember what it was, like 20 million or something. I think they have 6 or 7 million a year now. So there is definitely they have the infrastructure to receive more tourists. And if that's going to happen and the situation stabilizes, then maybe you could be charging 20-25 bucks in a couple of years from now. But I mean, it's just a big gamble. And, I'm just not so excited about it. And I want to be excited about my properties. So that's, in a nutshell, why I didn't end up investing. But I am working on a deal with the owner of the kitesurfing school to rent out units in his villa. And that's going to be super fun. I'll be getting a share of the profit of the business. And then I'll just be in charge of managing the Airbnb listing. So that's something that I'm excited about. I love kitesurfing, so kind of having a share in a kitesurfing business is definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Someone's asking, what's the cleaning fee on the $10 a night, 50 cents? Well, you would add the cleaning fee to the price, right? So, but labor is so cheap in Egypt that I guess a cleaning fee would probably be maybe like $5 or something, about $10. So that's not that much. All right, let's see. What else do we have on the agenda? All right, so yeah, I mentioned the meetup. So I'm here in Santa Monica now. I know there's a lot of Airbnb hosts. There's not in Santa Monica actually, because Airbnb hosting is not legal here. But in Los Angeles is a big Airbnb market. I know a lot of people who listen to the podcast are actually in California. A lot of them are in Los Angeles. So Friday, June 29, 4 to 7 p.m. There's happy hour at Herringbones, which is a really cool bar restaurant here on Main. I don't know if it's on Main Street actually, but it's downtown Santa Monica. I know there's already about like 15 people or so that have signed up. So check out Get Paid for Your Pet Facebook page. It's a public event, so you can RSVP. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll probably, if you can't make it at 4 or 5 or 6 p.m., we'll probably continue at Shutter's Bar, which is a cool cocktail bar near the beach. Later at night, maybe like 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. So if you can't make it to the earlier event, definitely if you want to connect, send me a message, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram. I mean, there's all these platforms that you can find me. So please reach out, Jasper at getpaidforyourpet.com. It's called Shutter's Hotel. Thank you, Sofia, for correcting me here. So I'm super excited to be meeting people from the community here. I would also love to do some live podcast events here. I'm going to interview Sofia for sure. So that will come up in the next couple of weeks. I understand that it's kind of far. Oh, by the way, my buddy Eric Muller, you might know him. He organized the Airbnb Virtual Summit. He's in San Diego. He's got a massive business going on there. Like this guy. I mean, it's probably. I mean, I compared to my experience with Airbnb hosting, he probably has like 10 times that. Given how many units he rents out and everything, and he's doing like re-rentals, he's purchased units, like he's doing awesome shit. His Airbnb group is called Airbnb Profit Club, by the way. So shout out to Eric. He's coming down all the way from San Diego. I've got another member of my community who's in Denver. He's thinking about flying over. He's got a massive business going on in Denver. So I'm super excited, to meet these people because I want to learn from them. I mean, these guys have like 10, 20, maybe 50 properties on Airbnb. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So super excited. So you're not just gonna meet me; you're gonna meet like these guys as well. You can learn a ton from them. They are hosting, locally here in of course in Los Angeles and San Diego and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be super fun. I've been super excited to meet you guys. So if you can make it, Friday, June 29th, 4 to 7 p.m. Herringbones in Santa Monica, or later at the Shutters Hotel. All right, so getting to the end of this podcast, just looking at some of the comments here on Facebook. Let's see, Andrew, it tells me it's on Ocean Ave. Thank you, Andrew. Ocean Ave, Santa Monica. What's the progress on your unit in Colombia? So I've already talked about that. But in a nutshell, I had my first guest. Oh, I guess I did forget to mention that. Thank you for bringing it up. So I stayed at my unit for about a month or so. And before I want to rent something out on Airbnb, I want to stay there because I think you have to stay at a place to really understand, like, what is it like? Maybe there's some things that are missing. What are the best features? What are the things that you want to highlight in your Airbnb listing and stuff? So that's the reason that I stayed at my place for about 4 weeks to really learn and understand the place, but also to find out, what needs to be improved. I've actually made a bunch of improvements. The roof terrace, which is probably the best feature, it's so awesome. I mean, this place, it's on the 4th floor. It's a penthouse unit. It's overlooking the neighborhood because it's on a little hill. And so it's like, it's near the action, but it's not right in the action. It's a couple minutes walk to most of the bars, restaurants. But, like when I stand on this roof terrace, I kind of feel like, have you seen The Lion King? When he's the lion is like standing on the rock, like overlooking his his little empire and stuff. That's kind of how I feel like when I stand on my roof terrace in Cali, just overlooking the neighborhood. It's really awesome. But my point was, there's a couple things that I wanted to improve before listing on Airbnb. Because I'm really targeting the high-end market, right? I'm targeting people who are willing to spend like $80, $100, maybe $120 for my penthouse, while they could also rent like a $30 unit. It also has 2 bedrooms, but it's just not as high-end. The furniture isn't as nice. It might not have AC. The Wi-Fi might not be good, and stuff like that. So for me, it's very important that everything has to work. Everything has to be perfect, because otherwise I'm going to get bad reviews. Right? If people pay premium, they accept a premium service, they accept a premium experience, and so everything needs to work. Now, first of all, my Wi-Fi wasn't working very well. I kind of had like a temporary solution that was like kind of on and off. It wasn't good. So there's no way you can rent out on Airbnb charging a premium price if your Wi-Fi is not fast. No way. I mean, that's the first thing that people do. They want to connect to the internet. So no way I was going to rent it out before the internet works well. Now the internet's actually been fixed, so the internet's fine now. But the other issue I had was that because I'm on a hill and because I'm on the top floor, the water pressure is not great, and so the amount of water that comes out of the shower, it didn't give me that that nice feeling in the morning when you wake up, you jump in the shower, and you have this nice warm water just like plunging down on you. It's such a great feeling, and I didn't get that feeling at all when I was taking a shower in my unit. So I told the guys at Far International who've developed this whole property for me and who've done an awesome job, by the way. Shout out to Patrick and Rodrigo, my buddy Rodrigo in Cali, who've just done an awesome job. But we need to install a pump to pump up the water and get more pressure in the showers. And so that's what I'm waiting for right now, for them to install that. And they'll be fixing this all for me, so it's really cool. I just get to chill here in Santa Monica while these guys are working for me. But I did get my first guest, because I told the guys in Cali, I told them, like, listen, like, I don't want to rent it out on Airbnb yet, because I want to get group reviews. But if you have people in your current, like, client pool that want to stay at my place, just tell them, like, hey, it's perfect, but the water pressure isn't great. But if you know people that want to stay there, feel free, go ahead and rent it out. So I actually got my first booking last weekend, just the last couple of days, at $80 a night, which is a good price. Because if I can rent it out 20 days a month at $80, that's 1,600 times 12. That is 19,200. If my math skills are still on par, 19,200 on an investment of about $145,000. So there, including costs, let's take like 4,000 or 5,000 costs. So then you're already looking at the 10% return, right? So $80, 20 days a month. That's like 66% occupancy. Yeah, I think it's doable. I definitely think it's doable. So super excited about all this stuff. Man, I kind of miss Colombia already. Actually, I kind of want to go back there. David Jacoby, shout out. I'm wearing the Hostfully t-shirt. He's not paying me for this. I'm just wearing it because it feels good. It's a nice t-shirt. And, it has his brand on it. Hostfully, I'm obviously going to use a Hostfully guide. They were sponsors of my podcast in the past. Currently, I don't do sponsorship because I'm kind of like on and off, like, little, not very structured with my podcasting right now, but I'll get back onto it. Actually, doing this live is like super fun, and so I'm thinking to do this every week. So every Monday at 10:30 PST, I'm gonna be in this time zone for the next 2 months. So it's gonna be pretty easy for me to do it every week at this time. So I don't know if this is the best time to do it, by the way, but I know most of the listeners are in California, they are in the US, and so I thought 10:30 PST on a Monday, everyone's like sitting at work. You might have a bit of a tough weekend. And then maybe you can just sneak into the restaurant or something, or take a break and just watch this live stream. I just thought it would might be a nice break for people who are in the office. But anyway, like, if I don't know if this is the best time. If you have any feedback on this, please reach out, Jasper@getpaidforyourpad.com. Let me know if there would be a better time to do this. Then I'm definitely down to pick whatever time works best for you guys. I'm pretty flexible. We have John from Toronto saying that this time actually works. Not so good for Hong Kong. True, not so good for Hong Kong. I believe that's Rene, who I've interviewed as well on the podcast. So shout out to Rene. He has some awesome Airbnbs in Bali, in Indonesia, and the fact that he's watching this means that he's up pretty late, because pretty sure it's about like 2 or 3 a.m. in Hong Kong right now. So maybe I'll do it a little bit earlier, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. or something. Make it a little bit easier for the people in Asia to tune in. All right, I'm going to end this live podcast episode. I hope that all the viewers enjoyed it, and the listeners, of course. If you're listening to this on iTunes, you're listening to this as an audio, then keep an eye out on my email list. If you're not signed up, go to getpaidforyourpad.com, sign up for my email list, and I'll send out an email a few hours before I do the live session. I'll send out an email so that you guys know when I'll be doing these live streams. And so, I think that would be really fun. Instead of listening to the podcast, you can just watch it on Instagram, you watch it on Facebook. This video is going to be live on the Facebook page as well. If you want to, if you haven't seen the whole thing, or if you're listening to this and you, for whatever reason, you want to look at my face, then you can do that on a podcast as well. Thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for commenting. I really love interacting with all you guys. So thank you so much for that. This has been a super fun experience. somebody's just asking, are you going to do more? So I'm planning to do this every Monday at 10:30 PST, unless people will tell me that there's a better time to do it, then I'll change it. But if not, 10:30 a.m. PST. That's 1:30 Eastern time. But make sure you sign up for my newsletter at getpaidforyourpet.com, because then you'll get the notifications. I'll let you know when this is going to happen. So thanks everybody again. It was awesome. And that was it for today. I'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.
Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet. Get paid for your pet.